We must know that today Christ was never more than rejected while he was upon the earth. He was never more than rejected. He only ever had a few followers. He was never more than one who faced and knew rejection. And so we're not to be surprised where we see loss more than gain, where we see trouble more than ease, where we see a few as much as we see the many. Because we come today to one who knows what rejection is all about and longs for us in the middle of our rejection to keep, coming alongside of him, identifying with him. He bore the reproach, didn't he, outside of the camp. Christ was exhausted. He needed help to carry that cross. It wasn't just physical exhaustion, it is spiritual exhaustion. He was carrying the weight of the world upon his own shoulders. But the challenge this morning is when we are willing to be pressed into service for Christ and to bear the cross. Simon of Cyrene's life was changed.
Amen.
Changed. But what the challenge is today, if he'd have arrived a few minutes later, he would not have caught the centurion's eye. And the centurion would not have pressed him to carry the cross. Simon of Cyrene carrying the cross, bearing the cross of Christ, is pictured on most cathedrals, in churches, on stained glass windows, in pictures. An anonymous African man, a Jew by descent, just coming in from toil, happened to be there where Jesus Christ needed him. Amen. Jesus Christ needs us in a sense today. And he's not asking for our help, but he's asking us to bear our cross. The cross of following him. 5 minutes later, he'd have missed. What if he'd had a lodging on the other side of town? He wouldn't have been coming in that direction. He had to come to the gate as the Saviour of the world was carrying the cross for our sin and for his sin. And today you might be wondering, where am I in God's plan? Well, you are going to arrive at the right time, at the right place, to be commissioned again by the Father to do a work with and for his Son. But it changed Simon of Cyrene's life. Why? He carried a stranger's cross. Initially, why would he have carried it? Was he happy that he was press-ganged into doing it? Did he dare to say, no, I can't do it? Did he wonder, why me? Why this time? Maybe he did. But when he saw the suffering of the Saviour of the world, his life changed. He began to change. He saw the man suffering, bleeding, dying, but continuing on his way to the place of the skull for us. God calls us. He gives us a commission. He asks us to identify with his Son. He asks us to make our way every day to the cross. Only as we follow Christ will our lives and hearts be changed. They will see him there, beaten, scourged, mocked, where the thorn crowns had been on his head. Pilate knew this man was no challenge to him, but he didn't have the bravery to stand against. Pilate, as we looked, was a man of policy, a man of opinion, a man who wanted to please the people. God's tree of life was out of Eden, walking to Golgotha. What a privilege to be one pressed by God, to be remembered forever. Simon of Cyrene carried the cross. Today we'll have an opportunity to do something that will be remembered forever. The initial responses we may wonder, why me? Why have I got to do it? I've got something else to do. I'm on my way to the Passover. I'm on to the celebrations. God, when he sees our heart, has got a greater commission. Come, pick up the lighter part of the cross. He is our beast of burden. Our yoke is easy and our burden is light. Simon of Cyrene followed a man who was about to twist himself in the midnight of this world. He twisted himself. He called out, didn't he? My God, why have you forsaken me? He twisted himself. I'll leave you to study that in the Hebrew. Pain, twisting, turning. And where does he do it? At the darkest part of your night. Remember, he twisted himself. While the world is mocking, and it will continue to mock until the end of the age of grace, there will be some who have been commissioned, some that have been pressed into service. More than carrying it, bear it. Bear it. He'd have had to pick that up, go out of his way, do something different than he planned to do. Being a Christian means doing something different than we planned to do. We've been commissioned and pressed to pick up the cross. One lonely trip to Golgotha. One Cyrene African man, Simon, commissioned. Often we can see ourselves today, we're pressed to go where God knows we will be at our very best. Would he ever regret being pressed into service? No. Would he ever say, Lord, I shouldn't have been there at that time? No. He's remembered by us today, and his son Rufus lived on to be remembered by Paul. When we are in the right place at the right time, willing to do what he calls us to do, what we do will be remembered forever. How do we serve him today? We serve him by keeping our hearts clean. We serve him by our testimony. We serve him by continuing to go forward when everything is very difficult. Isn't that wonderful news? Yes. Simon of Cyrene, willingly or unwillingly, was commissioned by God to carry his son's cross. We will meet and see him in heaven and say, what a privilege. What an effect it had on your family. What comfort and instruction he's brought to me.